Running commentary. We are exploring listening to albums. It is a lost art form. We took an hour out of our day. We switched off the phones. We switched off the computers. We did not answer the door. We sat down and we listened to the artist's vision and concept. Elton John, Madman Across the Water. Elton John's Madman Across the Water was the fourth studio album from Reginald Dwight. It made the top 10 album charts in Australia, Canada, and America. It was released on Guy Fawkes Day in 1971, but it certainly didn't create any fireworks in the UK, where the album barely limped to number 41. It was recorded in 7 days, namely the 27th of February and then the 9th to the 14th of August in 1971 at the Trident Studios in London. The lyrics on this album were penned by the legendary writing partner of Elton John, Bernie Taupin. The album was produced by Gus Dudgeon, and Sir Elton Hercules John, CBE, was born on the 25th of March 1947 as an Aries. Elton John has sold more than 300 million records. He was raised in the Pinner area of London, or Middlesex as was. Elton John's father had served as a flight lieutenant in the Royal Air Force. Elton John's mother and maternal grandmother were much closer to Reginald Dwight in the early years. The name Elton John came from paying homage to two members of Bluesology, the band whom Elton had been a member of. So saxophonist Elton Dean and the number one scoring artist Long John Baldry are responsible for the key components of Elton John's name. Elton John had been the session piano player on He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother by the Hollies, which I was really shocked by. Rick Wakeman from Yes played the organ on Razor, Madman and Peaches on this album. Herbie Flowers from Bowie's Diamond Dogs plays the bass on Madman, Indian and Peaches. The tracks are as follows. You've got Tiny Dancer, which is number one. It's a legendary track. I believe this was in the movie Almost Famous. And it was remixed by DJ Ironic and Chipmunk in 2009. It was a number 3 hit in the UK as that remix. Leave On, the key lyric there is the New York Times says God is dead. It made number 6 on Canada's chart. Then you have Razorface as track 3. Madman Across the Water. Indian Sunset is the 5th. 6 is Holiday Inn. There are orchestral strings here, which are a key component of this album's soundscaping. 7, Rotten Peaches. 8, All the Nasties, a really cool gospel-style finish to the song. And Goodbye, I'm the Poem That Doesn't Rhyme. Less is more on this short but beautiful ballad. So let's just break down the tracks a little bit here. What I love about Tiny Dancer is its openness. Remember, the lyrics are written by Bernie Taupin about his wife. You can hear the youth in Elton's voice. This album is released prior to the difficulties that would become such a memorable part of Elton's late 70s career. Leave On, like Tiny Dancer before, it tells a story. Jesus wants to go to Venus. The bridge is memorable. The trademark strings continue on to track 2 beautifully. The stories in these songs did prompt me to go online and see if there were any interviews on the subject. All I could find that was the lyrics come first and Elton writes to them. They are an odd couple, so to speak. If you see the two of them together, their dynamic is, I wouldn't say standoffish, but it is a professional. It seems like a very professional friendship. And the idea that you write music to a set of lyrics, I guess, is pretty interesting. That interview that I saw had been on the Arsenio Hall show. And that was the latest interview that I could find of Elton and Bernie together. Razorface has phrasing similarities to Philadelphia Freedom, which comes after. It's not a bad song, but for me doesn't have the epic quality of the prior 2 songs. Madman Across the Water as a title track has a great progressive rock rhythm. There's the welcome return of the string section on this track, which is such an identifying quality of this collection of work. It's much more of a mood piece, this title track, and it actually endears the track to me. Madman Across the Water Indian Sunset. We will not leave the chosen ones to the buzzards. Again with the strings that I can't get enough of. A calming, reflective piece with searing things at time. Very really get into the sort of country sort of element, the open spaces of the plains. Real soundscaping here, and the lyrics are really telling quite an epic story. David Katz is the orchestra contractor on this album. I can't find any reference to actually who played the strings, which is interesting because they're such a big part of this record. Holiday Inn is a big 70s background vocals on this track, and the style of this album is really beginning to resonate with me in its vision. Rotten Peaches. I tell you what, it just occurred to me that these big background harmonies show up later on Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. I'm gonna have me my fill of cocaine and pills goes on to become part of Elton's troubles in later years. Jesus is mentioned quite liberally throughout the album. This track ends with a great la 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 chorus. All the Nasties, the backing vocals on this track are more choral. Oh My Soul is chanted throughout the majority of the closing of this track. Goodbye. Now this is a short ballad piece, and now it's all over. At 1 minute 53 seconds, this song presages what will become the heartbreaking style of Sorry Seems to Be the Hardest Word and Someone Saved My Life Tonight. In closing, what I end up with, having listened to Madman Across the Water a couple of times, is that for the first time I'm actually enjoying Elton John as an artist. Not as a legend, not as a British institution or peer of the realm, but a young artist with heart and vision and seemingly such comfort in his own creative skin. I've always maintained that Elton's 70s material is the best, and this album reinforces that belief powerfully. The closing mark for running commentary, Madman Across the Water by Elton John, 82%.